So, hello, Father Brian. Thank you so much for your time to come today and share about your experience in the Master's in Psychology program at Divine Mercy. You're in ministry, you're a religious priest. Would you share a little bit about how the MSP has been helpful for your work in ministry?
Sure, happy to do so. Uh, I think there are a handful of really key ways that the MSP has helped me. Uh, I guess you could kind of put as big categories how it helps in ministry, how it helps my own personal flourishing, and then also kind of as a bridge between the two, how it has given me a framework for thinking about myself, others, relationships. So, on the ministry side of things, when people come to you, they are really looking for whole self flourishing. Nobody ever comes and uh, at least explicitly says, I've figured out my problem and it's this little tiny, very easy to recognize thing. Because we're entire people and everything has an impact in different parts of us. So when someone comes and seeks help, seeks accompaniment for flourishing, the better an understanding you have of their entire person, the more capable you are of recognizing what will help them the most for flourishing. None of us have a crystal ball to be able to do that perfectly, but the greater an understanding we have of the dynamics of flourishing of the person, the more readily we can kind of situate someone's personal situation and offer a meaningful bit of advice, meaningful bit of accompaniment, suggestion. So I feel like that is a first key thing that has helped me a lot to also resolve any sort of ambiguity. So you don't give someone suggestions or advice that are not over the target of what they're really dealing with. And so that's a first thing that I found to be very helpful. The second one of the personal flourishing, I think for priests and consecrated people in general, there can be an ambivalent or even antagonistic relationship with having emotions. In a lot of formation settings, at least in centuries past, if not in our current one, there was a sense that emotions are the thing that get in the way of you saying yes to God's will. Like God's will is so clear. If we could just force our will to always do God's will, then we'd be saints. And the funny thing about that is that the church's richest teaching has never taught that. Thomas Aquinas says that a really well-lived holy life is a life built on virtue, and you can't have virtues in isolation. You need all the virtues together. And some virtues are precisely related to our emotions. So a life without emotions is a life that will be lacking in virtue and a life that will be lacking in flourishing. I'm a big fan of C.S. Lewis's image of men without chests, men who have, head, heart, and stomach. Head being the right ideas, stomach being our instincts, our natural drives, but our heart being the way the world resonates inside of us, or our emotions. And so, someone who's lacking in emotions is actually going to be deaf or blind to what the world is telling you. If you're angry, if you're sad, if you're joyful, there's a reason behind that anger, joy, and sadness. And so, like I say, I think there's a danger for us as consecrated people to be like, well, you know what? I don't have time for my emotions. I don't have the bandwidth to figure out what's going on inside of me. I just need to kind of put my head down and serve, serve, serve. Uh, but you'll reach a certain point where you're actually deaf to the reality of the people that you're serving because you are deaf to what your emotions are telling you. So I think placing not just a tolerance for emotion in one's own life, but actually recognizing the great value of it for flourishing and for holiness is something that I find really beneficial. And then the third aspect of having a framework of thought, my experience having been subjected to a lot of years of studies is that when you study something seriously, maturely, you receive not just content, but you also receive a way of thinking. And so something that I've enjoyed a lot about my experience of the MSP is that it has certainly contributed a number of great methods and ideas and perspectives, but also it has given me kind of a professional discipline in my thinking. And as much as students, we might bristle or get a little impatient at times with having to write in APA style, or having a teacher say, hey, your language is a little bit flowery and poetic and we need it to be more concrete and scientific, or even, you know what, instead of expressing that in 1,500 words, can you express it in 300? But there's a professionalism that comes from that, which you can then put at the service of others. And so I find that that as well is something that I've come to appreciate a lot. That ability to, yes, take a humanistic approach and see what value I can draw from that, to take a spirituality approach and see what value I can draw from that, but also to have the discipline of thought to be very specific and accurate about the phenomenon that I'm observing and dealing with. And you don't get that easily overnight. It's something that you get as a process of practicing over and over, and as tedious or seemingly as simplistic as that practice might be, over time it accumulates into a really rigorous and rich way of being able to think about things.
Thank you so much. That's very insightful. Really appreciate your reflection. But it's like a scientific mindedness that gives ability to precision, but is informed by psychological literacy, but the Catholic Christian vision of the person. So thank you so much for sharing that. Really appreciate your thought. Thank you so much for your time being with us and sharing what you experience, and wish you all the best for your ministry.
Thank you so much.